Board of Supervisors of Elections meeting to order on July 16th, 2020. Call to order and then roll call.
Cliff Myers, member, present.
Brianna Cuffey, present.
Regina Watkins Eldridge, City Clerk, present.
Ashley Leonard, Assistant City Attorney, present.
Okay, so next on the agenda is approval of minutes. I think it was it just you and I,
was not
Brianna, at the
there.
last one?
Yeah, June.
Okay.
Yep.
And I believe the only thing, Regina, was the,
You corrected it already.
right, so it's already, okay, so it should be fine.
Yep. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
we had already, Brianna and I had already reviewed them. So Brianna, if you make a motion to accept them.
Motion to accept last month's minutes.
All right, I second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. So Ashley, seems like things are quiet at your house right now, so let's just move you to the top and let you talk about the MOU meeting and the changes that you've made.
Okay, so the meeting with the County Board of Elections went fairly smoothly. They didn't seem too upset about the potential for a primary election change. They didn't support the idea, but they weren't, sort of frustrated by it or didn't think it would be a problem. The MOU, I agreed to take the first attempt at revising it. My biggest changes from the 2019 special election were, one, I tried to sort of break it out so that it was very clearly sections on like cooperative responsibilities, city responsibilities, and county responsibilities. Before, it had sort of been muddled all together. So I tried to clean that up. I made a new section related to invoicing and billing. So I pulled all the different pieces that dealt with any sort of finances out of the like random sections they've been put in before and put a whole new section in on billing and estimates and who's covering the costs. I added in new sections to address the potential for mail-in elections, and I more recently added in a section on the potential for a change in the primary election dates. And then the other big thing is I added in a new exhibit C. I relettered the exhibits. There's a new exhibit C, which should look somewhat familiar to you. Back in 2017 election, the county and us, my office, and you as the board went through a whole process where we identified possible inconsistencies between the city code and state law. Because our elections need to be run by city code, but the county generally runs pursuant to state law. And so I identified those, and then we came up with sort of a mutual procedure of how we were gonna sort of handle that inconsistency. And so I created this new exhibit C, which is just sort of a cleaned up version of a memo we did back in 2017 that the county would like sort of incorporated into the MOU and to some effect, to just sort of make sure that we're all on the same page where things are they're all minor inconsistencies for the most part. So that's the big stuff. And if you guys approve it, whenever you approve it, then the next step will be send it over to the board for their review. The county board, sorry.
So I looked at it. I had a couple of comments, Ashley. One was, and maybe it doesn't go in the MOU, but we had talked about trying to decrease the number of election judges needed.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Maybe not go all the way back to 2013, but there was a real jump, and that does provide a lot of cost. I don't know if we can.
We can put it in there. I can look up where we put it in, or if we don't put it in, we can definitely send it over with the MOU as a discussion topic. I feel like we're gonna need another meeting, but
Right.
if you guys would like me to add that into the MOU, I'm fine with that.
Whichever way you think, but I definitely think we need to discuss it, or maybe to look at the numbers we did in 2017 versus 2013 and see if we can maybe move to
I have to,
a little bit.
What
I
is it?
think the language in the MOU doesn't expressly say how many judges are going to be set, but I think it gives the county final
does.
say.
Yeah, it's paragraph D. It just says all necessary
Yeah,
the BOE shall do all necessary, so they have the power as to how many right now.
yeah. So I can adjust that line to say that the parties will mutually, something along mutually
Yes.
agree to how
Yep.
many
That would be good.
judges are necessary.
Perfect.
That would be good. The other comment that I had was just the vote by mail component, where it still seems to tie it in with a state of emergency.
Okay, I can pull that out.
Well, it just it reads, the city and the board may conduct the elections as a vote by mail election if authorized by an emergency proclamation by the governor of Maryland or an executive order of the mayor, or as otherwise permitted by applicable law. So does the applicable law allow us to decide to do it?
Frankly think applicable law for the most part, at least at the city level, is silent. Now the state level might, the problem is, I think the reason I tied it to the executive orders or the emergency orders is that I'm not sure there's anything in any law at this point that really discusses mail-in.
Right, but we do have it included in the, I get confused if it's
The
ordinance or
resolution, right?
resolution.
We do, I could tie it to the resolution.
Or maybe have the verbiage a little more consistent.
Yeah, I can clean that up.
I mean, certainly if the governor or the mayor says do it that way, I'm not trying to take it away, but just to kind of clarify what we've talked about as far as making that recommendation.
Yeah, I probably had forgotten. I forgot that we changed the resolutions language, so I'll double check that and make sure it's
Okay,
consistent.
okay. Brianna, did you have any other comments?
No, actually, those were the, I mean, I didn't read it in complete detail, but those were two things that I had noted as well. I don't have any other comments.
Okay.
Yeah, neither.
Just a couple of other things, just, Ashley mentioned the meeting went well, which it did. We met with Joe and Dave, and we, I think pretty much everything seemed to be okay. They did give us some feedback. I did let them know that we did change the, the changes we made to the absentee ballot, or at least that's moving through legislation to make it so that we have longer time.
Right.
Of interest with the primary that they just had, which of course they had so many votes. It took them 21 days to canvass. So it might be something, again, depending on if we're doing mail, depending on what's going on with the virus then. Speaking of the virus, they do not have any specific COVID guidelines. It's certainly not something I want to have to, think we need to address right now, but we'll need to continue to monitor it and see if it does impact things as we move forward. And just some other things we did talk about. I asked them how the vote by mail went in those areas that they were part of, and that of course led to the increase canvas. And Ashley, correct me if you have a different opinion, but they felt it went pretty well. There were some issues with some vendors, which may have been just because the timeline for this was so tight. If we were to go in that direction, they did talk about things like we would need to consider liability insurance, or just what the liability might be, to look at video feeds for drop boxes and some additional expenses and things like that. So it was helpful to kind of hear what their experience is. And of course, it's going to be a little different for them this November, because it's going to be a bit of a hybrid where absentee ballot registrations will go out to everybody. And then if you apply for an absentee ballot, you'll get one. Otherwise, they'll be voting in person.
And when you mentioned the liability insurance for what facet?
I think it had to do with the video, but I'm not sure. I may just have made, I think it, I think it was that. To be honest, I'm looking at my notes and I'm going,
I can remember. I remember them talking about the vendor because they used an out-of-state one, and that caused some hiccups. So they were hoping that if they had to do it again, there's a local vendor that they liked. it would
Right.
like to use.
Okay.
I don't remember the insurance piece, but if it comes up again, that can be a conversation we have with our risk manager.
Yeah, and that may be an
Right.
error in my part in some of my notes because
Okay.
I'm relooking at that. But yeah, overall, they're typical, whatever you need, we'll do. Again, going back if the charter amendment goes through, they mentioned that, and I can bring that, they mentioned just the increased need for communication should that occur, the decrease in terms of preparation time. The biggest concern they had is being able to get election judges in July because of it
Okay.
being hot,
Hard enough in the fall. Yeah.
vacations, and that sort of thing. So we can kind of look at that a little bit more later on, but they said they could work with us. So yeah, I think overall, thanks for all you're doing, Ashley, as far as getting that put together. Any other comments, Brianna, Regina?
No,
And I'll make those 2 changes tomorrow and get them back to you.
Okay, and then we can just let you know via email that they're okay.
Yeah, and then, I mean, because all we're doing right now is negotiations. We're not finalizing and
Okay.
signing it yet. So then once I get verbal okays from you guys, I will email it over to the county board for their initial review. And then we'll probably need to go through a round or 2 of back and forth. And then once we get it in final form, I will need an official vote from you guys that approves it.
Okay, so if we did that in September, we'll be okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. And it doesn't, because of the legislation, now we don't need to go to the city council again. We just have to,
No, that legislation, I've been going to some of the standing committee meetings on it. There's no real concerns
okay, all right.
expressed as of yet. So I think it will continue along its path fairly smoothly.
Okay, all right,
Eileen, it had a public hearing and nobody spoke.
okay. Thank you. Anything else for you, Ashley, that,
The only other thing I sent you, and this is obviously not a rush, but you had asked about independent expenditure reports
Mhm.
at the state level. So I tried to keep it fairly bare bones at this point. So I sent you the one provision from state law that expressly talks about the reports. And then I sent you the definition section, just in case there were any words you sort of wanted to know what they meant.
okay. Just to give you, this came up, I was talking to Jared at the State Board of Elections about another question that I had. And he mentioned in terms of campaign fund reports that we don't have a section on independent expenditures and that he recommends that we take a look at that. So I had asked Ashley if she would look at it. So that could be something I could put on the September agenda. We can take a look at it. I believe it requires a code. Will it require a code change or a code addition?
Probably, because we'll probably need to, at very minimum, we'll need to define what it is and what needs to be included on the report.
Okay, all right. Discussion about it came up because I was talking to him about the political action committees and just getting some other information from the state and any changes that they had made. So I'll send that out. I don't know, Ashley, did you send it to everybody or just me?
I think I sent it to everyone.
Okay, all right. So if you had a chance to look at it, we can put on the September.
I have to admit, the first time I looked at it, I kind of read the first 2 paragraphs, then I read them again, then I read them again. So I'm trying to figure out what is this saying?
Yeah, I have to take a look at it too. So,
If you need other pieces from the state code, let me know. It was kind of all over the place, so I was trying to start fairly simply, but
okay.
just let me know what you need.
All right, Ashley. Stay as long as you like, but if you need to go, we understand.
Okay, I think I'm okay for a little bit, so I'll hang in here while you guys discuss other stuff.
Okay. All right, let's go on to election year calendar. So Regina and I had been back and forth a little bit over what version we had. So Cliff, you had mocked it up and then had changed it because we had the election date, I think, is the later in November.
Right. I thought there were a couple dates that were off, and so I'd adjusted them. I might have them on my computer here.
Okay, because we talked about what I had hoped we would have was in the 2017 election calendar, we had the components of the city code that corresponded to those dates. And so that still needs to be done. But if we can go through these dates today, we do need to go ahead and make a vote. I'm looking for my,
So did you have a chance, or Regina, where I made a couple of adjustments? Did they seem correct, or was I misunderstanding something?
To tell you the truth, I really didn't look at them after you sent them to me because of
Okay.
all the stuff that was going to, I really, to be honest, I haven't looked at it,
Okay.
forwarded. Because
All
I think you do a great job.
all right, well,
Yep.
do we need to do a formal vote on this tonight, or can we look at it and get you something in a few days?
You can take until your first meeting in September.
Well, doesn't it start in August?
Yeah, but remember we were talking about that earlier today, and I think the only thing that we are giving people when they come in to run would be have them complete the certificate of candidacy right now. Remember we
All
talked
right, well, let's get through the first and make sure that we're all on the same page as far as the first few of these.
Okay.
So November 2nd, 2019 has passed, and that was the deadline for the mayoral candidates to have been registered voter in the city of Annapolis. We're looking at Monday, August 3rd, the election office opens, correct? Then,
Yes.
okay, and then the election office will be closed Labor Day. And then November 2nd, 2020, that's the first Monday. So the correction that I see on Cliff's is that it should be Monday, November 9th is the deadline for aldermanic candidates to have been a registered voter in the city. Or no, the correction is to the 2nd, November 2nd. Because it needs to be a year. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't find my copy. Was that in one of the documents that was sent out?
It wasn't, I had to dig it out from a while ago. Well, if we can agree just on those,
Yep.
those are pretty straightforward as far as, the election office open, the election office closed, and then the 1 year for
Right.
alderman candidates. And we need to have that, I think, because if somebody comes in and,
They come in early.
Yeah, we
Right.
need to know what the date is. Yeah.
okay, so that'll get us through, and then we can, and we'll also have it, it'll also be actually helpful if we finalize the rest of it in September, because we'll have a better idea of what's going on with the charter amendment too.
Okay.
So can we agree to those dates?
I
So,
move to accept those dates.
okay, so the dates then are November, we've already got that one, August. So
Yep.
the election office opens August 3rd. It's closed Labor Day, September 7th. And then November 2nd is the deadline for the automatic candidates to have been a registered voter in the city of Annapolis. Is that good?
That's good.
All right, so motion to accept those dates on the election calendar.
So moved.
A second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So let's take a look at that. Maybe in the meantime, Regina, we could have either whoever can put together that kind of merge those two documents, the one that Takia did back in March with the.
I'm gonna do it, and then I'll
Okay.
send it to her to
Okay.
double check. But while we're on the subject, we did need to approve one more date. What is the date that the central committee can fill the position if it's vacant? Remember the
Right. So okay. I was thinking of that separate. Let me just double check too, because I think, have we already done a vote on when we're actually doing the elections? I think we did that in our last meeting.
I don't recall that being in another. Hold on, I have the minutes right here.
I just want to make sure we get that set.
They're in the resolution.
So we're good.
I mean,
They are,
we established them because they have to be in the resolution for
Okay.
the delegation.
Great. All right. So we don't have to do that now. Okay.
Okay.
So a side piece to this, actually, I'd rather keep that separate, Regina.
Okay.
So we have the election year calendar. Any other business with that? Okay, so a side piece to that, looking at the election year, the mayor's office had called to ask at what point would it, let me back up. So as we know, if a candidate or if there's an opening in less than 15 months, there is a process by which the Central's committees go through public
Right.
hearings and make a decision on who will fill that vacancy. If the vacancy occurs greater than 15 months, then there's a special election to
Right.
be held.
Mhm.
Now, back in when this first started, if I recall, did we ever actually get a resignation from Alderman Rodriguez, Regina?
I don't have anything officially from him. No one
Right.
provided.
My understanding was it had been publicly discussed, but there was no actual resignation tendered. That's
Yeah,
my
I know, if there was one tendered, it didn't make its way to us.
right,
Because I found out from, I think, like a Capital article.
right.
Mhm.
So Alderman Rodriguez essentially did not resign. So no special election was held. Certainly, if he were to resign or any alderman vacancy would occur before, I believe it would be August, either 2nd or 3rd, depending on how you want to count it, which we'll do in a minute. A special election would be pretty difficult at this late juncture, mostly in terms of with the November elections coming up. We would have to contact the county. I would venture to say it would be hard for them to say, yes, we'll run your election in September with all that they're doing. I mean, Joe has even mentioned to me that all of their machines are pretty much all ready to go. How they have everything locked up. I do know earlier in the year, I was contacted by a vendor, the vendor that actually the city of Annapolis used in 2013. And he had contacted me because he had heard that Annapolis might be having to have a special election. At that time, they were, in the spring, they would have been available, but they were also going to be busy. He mentioned how busy he was going to be come the November election. They are also a vendor that does not do mail-in voting, which would be something to consider if we had to do a special election. So, it depends on what Alderman Rodriguez decides to do and how this plays out. But if we had to have a special election, there would be some challenges and some obstacles we would have to overcome.
So I double checked, I went further back in my email. It looks like we were included on something, someone a part of his campaign, Elvia, had mentioned that he resigned. I think he gave the letter to council, but not to any of us.
Right, we didn't.
And then he responded and said his resignation was postponed. And then the Ethics Commission said, that in order for it looks like for it to be finalized, they needed his financial disclosure statement. And then there was nothing else, at least that I was on.
Okay. So we need to answer the mayor's office question, which is with the election being the general election being November 2nd, 15 months, I believe would be, if you're just going by months, not weeks or days, it would be August 2nd.
And I don't see how we do this other than mail. And we're not going to have machines if it were to occur.
Well, at this point, we just need to give them an answer as far as
Right.
what the date is. I appreciate that there has been a community effort in terms of a petition to push this forward. That's certainly what the community can do. It's just, there's some information on Facebook and information on in the newspaper that is not accurate. There are some kind of threads making it sound like it would be an easy thing to do. Or that it could be rolled into the presidential election, which it could not be. So should this occur, we would need to handle it certainly, but I would hope that maybe some of the people that are interested in promoting this might want to contact the Board of Elections to find out exactly what would be entailed if there was a special election at this date. So Regina, do you have what you need? Do we all agree that the date would be August? I mean, actually August 2nd is exactly 15 months. So it really be August 3rd would be less than 15 months. And if they wanted to be extra vigilant, they could make it would be later in August or even September.
Yeah, he could probably decide what date after the 3rd.
Right.
Third.
Right. Well, it depends on if he, it's up to him as far as any resignation if it occurs. So to answer their question, I would say August 3rd.
Without pulling up the charter again, just to be clear, the vacancy that kicks off the that 15-month period is the vacancy effective as of the date of the resignation that's placed in a letter, or is the vacancy become effective upon acceptance by the mayor?
From what I was reading, my understanding was that it was effective from the mayor.
I need to pull up the charter and double check that.
Yeah, can you do that? Okay.
Yeah, when
Did we lose
I remember
that?
taking a look at it, I'm pretty sure it's from the mayor, but
Effective when accepted.
It
Pardon?
is, I think. Yeah, I think that's what it is. You have to give it to the mayor.
Right.
And then he has a certain amount of days to contact the
Oh, that
central.
was 5 days.
Well, less than 15 months is August 3rd.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm just,
You're right. If you can find that, that would be helpful.
It's under Title IV and vacancies.
Yep. Just trying to pull up real quick here. Double check.
My reading of it, although I don't think it says it expressly, is that somehow the mayor, or in the case of the mayor being the one that vacates, the acting mayor has to become notified of it at some point. And then once that person, the mayor or acting mayor, is notified, then the process kicks off.
Does it stipulate how they have to be notified?
No, I don't believe so.
it looks like there's a stipulation for what the central committee, how the central committee has to.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like the mayor.
Well, in the past, when people have resigned, they just submit a letter to the mayor, and he reaches out to the central committee and everything starts. There's really not anything we do on this side except for wait for a decision from them, and then the mayor swears them in at the next regular meeting.
Okay. All right. So a resignation would go to the mayor would have to accept it. And then the process begins in terms of whether it goes towards a special election or it goes towards the central committee, depending on the date.
Mhm.
And I believe we're all in agreement that less than 15 months from the general election is August 3rd. August 2nd would be exactly 15 months. That makes sense, everybody?
Mhm.
Yep.
So, Regina, let me give would it be appropriate if I gave the mayor's office a call tomorrow just to clarify that?
They wanted something in writing because Mitchell said they needed with something with your, signature or something.
Oh, okay.
She said she just wants to keep it in her back pocket in case the press asks.
Right. Okay, that's fine. And it's good to clarify whether it's for Alderman Rodriguez for any of the wards. So if you could draft that, then I can take care of that tomorrow.
I
Okay.
will do that tomorrow.
All right. Anything else on that point? Nope. Okay. Next item on the agenda is election office. So Regina and Ashley and I had a good phone meeting with Mike Lyles in regards to what we needed in regards to the election office. So I know that there's a lot going on in the city hall as far as some reconfiguring of space having to do with COVID and also some other security measures. So Ashley and Regina, jump in if I get this wrong or if you want to add something, but basically what we were talking to him about was location, funding, and also staffing. We pretty much requested that we use the same election office that we've used in 2017. Currently, it is occupied by Tequila Green, one of the assistant city clerks. So he was taking that into consideration. There was some discussion whether to move the office somewhere else, but I think we finished up saying, nope, that's kind of really where we want it, and let's see if that can happen. But I haven't gotten any firm feedback from him. I did get an email yesterday saying that he's still working on some things. But what we had talked about was putting, Brianna, I don't know if you're as familiar with the office as much, but it's right next to Regina's office, and there's a door there that you can come in, and it's ADA accessible, and it worked out really well in the last election. So we talked about right next to it, put a kind of a window in so that people, instead of having to come into the Office of Law or go to perhaps another window that they have there, that we would have a plexiglass window there where people could come in and they could get their questions answered, they could drop things off, and then the desks and the partitions that are currently in the office could be moved out to the hallway right outside that door, so that people needed some place where they could fill things out. They could do it there, and there would also be physical distance out there. So that was kind of what we were talking about in the physical layout. Is that your recollection, Regina?
Yeah.
Agree.
Well, you know what? Are they going to let people? We're still going to have an issue if they don't let people in the building.
Well, we'll get to that when that happens.
Okay. Because I don't think we're going to do that anytime soon.
Well, there might be just some, that's another discussion in terms of what, maybe we'll figure that out at that time. Again, if we have that window right in the lobby, it makes it so that anybody that's coming in is going to have minimal contact. I know that Mike did also talk about any other ADA accessibility to the office. And I think the overall ADA accessibility for City Hall is being reevaluated anyway. So the other thing we did talk about was in terms of funding. He did say that he would find the funding that we needed. We did give him some numbers as far as what we needed, as far as getting startup costs, whether that be printing, paper, that type of thing. We had requested a part-time person to start in September. And what I got from Mike yesterday was that he was planning on 2 part-time people starting in January. And so I was a little surprised by that. We didn't talk specifically about hours. I think actually we talked about starting a person part-time September to January and then full-time. And then Ashley was going to look at that in terms of creating a contract. And I think you did that, didn't you, Ashley?
Yeah, I have contract templates ready to go as needed. But I haven't, and my recollection was the part-time from the fall through January and then the full-time, but I haven't had any discussions with Mike as to, or City Attorney Lyles as to what had been decided on that front. But yeah, it won't take me long to do a contract.
Okay. So Brianna and Cliff, what are your thoughts about having two full-time people in January versus going back and just asking him about having a part-time person September to January and then a full-time person?
I guess, I mean, I just simply have to defer to Regina on that.
Yeah, my initial question is kind of, do we need two people or was one person fine?
Okay,
The
when
whole
we,
part is kind of to alleviate what they're doing in the office.
I think that having one person would be fine, but Joe did say when it was time to work with the absentee ballots that we had to have more staffing or he wouldn't be willing to assist us with that.
Right, but that's later in the process.
Yeah, so I mean, what are you gonna do, hire people for like 2 weeks or something?
Well, if that's a need at that time,
But
deal with that, but we can't say we need two people because we need both people at the last 2 weeks of the election cycle. I mean, we're trying to meet what your needs are in the office as far as September to January and then later.
Okay, well, our needs are would probably change based on what we're doing. You know, if the building is open to the public, then we're definitely going to need somebody that can be there because we're pulled out of the office for different things all the time.
Okay.
So
Would you say you need somebody starting in September?
September would be fine.
Okay. So I could go back to Mike and say, can we go back and look at what we discussed at that meeting, which was having somebody start in September?
Mhm.
Yes, or that works for you, Regina?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay, so I'll follow up with Mike about that and see if we can get somebody part-time starting in September. Because if we can get a lot of stuff done early on, that always helps. Okay. Any other discussions about the election office?
It's really more a question just about procedure, if you will, come August. I mean, if indeed folks can't come in and we have somebody wants to file their candidacy early, do we have any issues with, are there any questions we need to resolve about they complete their forms, it's, notarized and they put it in an envelope and put it in the chute by the door? Do we have any?
There's no COVID, but there are no COVID guidelines, at least set by the state. So I think, that's a valid concern, but I think that's something we're going to have to look at in its entirety if it comes to that. And we'll know more, say, December.
Well, but since
Oh, you mean in the meantime, starting in September?
well, because somebody could file a year early.
Okay.
And
we do have a gentleman that wants to file as soon as we open.
All right, well, I'll talk with Mike then about access. I'm sorry, I was thinking ahead, Cliff, and not thinking this.
yeah.
I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, do we need to do anything special? How do we accept them? And
Right.
yeah.
So I have a question for you. So if they submit their certificate of candidacy in an electronic form, could we just require that they send it to us electronically for now, but they have to mail the original? Because we could do the checking with the county with the scanned document, to send it over to verify that they live where they live and, that all that information.
Right.
You would just want to make sure you make it clear to them that it's not accepted until you receive the hard copy and it's cleared through the whole normal procedure.
So it sounds like we need a procedure checklist.
So it sounds like you still need to have that written copy. So it's a question, they're just going to mail it.
Yeah, I mean, because I deal with this all the time right now with sensitive documents that need to be notarized. I'm willing to take a scanned copy to get the process started, but I always make sure to make clear to them that they still have to mail me the original before it's all approved and final.
But do we want to start the process if we don't have a written copy?
That would be up to you guys and the clerk.
I mean, what's the benefit of sending something electronically if we still need the written copy? Because I can just foresee people sending it electronically and then we sit there waiting for the written copy.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. But I think we should always have our original.
I don't know, Brianna, Cliff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think that, I'm just kind of browsing through the certificate of candidacy. So today, if folks aren't coming into the office and somebody wants to do this, in August or early September before we next meet, do we need to put something on the page where they would go to get this? Do we take this form and add a cover to it real quick that says, please print this off, but this must be mailed to office of city clerk at 162 Gloucester. So Regina, when stuff is mailed in, how's it getting to you or somebody to review?
We have a mailbox in City Hall, and we check it in the morning and
Okay.
just bring it to our office.
Okay, and if it comes in the office, there's somebody there to take a look at it and would be able to.
Yeah, look at it based on the code, to make sure that, and send it over to the county, because they technically tell us whether they're eligible or not.
Okay.
If they lived in the ward long enough, if they were registered to vote by the deadline,
Right.
they send it to us and we check it out.
Okay.
And then we send it to you guys and you have to approve it, or certify them.
Well, maybe that's the part that needs to be electronic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you also have a Dropbox at City Hall. So if somebody wants to drop something at City Hall, they can. They just can't go in, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too, that, they print this off at their convenience of their home. They get it duly completed and indicate you can either place this in the mail or use the Dropbox at City Hall. And then some statement, as you're saying, it just, you will receive notification of the acceptance of your certificate, within, I don't know, what the time frame would be.
All right, well, we can add that. I mean,
Okay.
I guess I'm just thinking, I just assume have the written copy. And there are mechanisms, both mail or drop off, even if they
Right.
can't come
Yep.
in.
Yep.
So, and I think we've approved these electronically in the past ourselves, haven't we, Regina?
I bring them to your meeting.
Right.
I probably send them to you so you can look at them, and then
Right.
I bring a hard copy to your meeting.
Okay, but I think we could still look at them electronically. If we have questions, we can ask for the hard copy or just. And again, this points to the need for somebody in the office that's going to be able to process these things other than Regina.
Yeah, and
answer some of these questions.
and I was just thinking, we have to get our website up.
Yep.
Right.
And so I was just thinking we get it up with everything that we had on it from the last election, and the only document we have there right now is the certificate of candidacy.
Right.
And
Well,
I think my report.
Brianna's been looking at the
Yeah.
website and has some comments about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm spending the rest of this week actually going through to consolidate all the website links and stuff related to elections and stuff to get that kind of handbook rolling and seeing where and that way I can follow up with y'all as to see what else kind of should be thrown in or specified.
Mhm.
Yeah, I find the website very difficult. If I were to go in there as a candidate, it takes me forever to find a blank campaign fund report.
Yeah, our city.
I can find the election results for 2009 easier than I can find the current stuff. So, I mean, if Brianna and Regina, if you guys could really look at that and then just come up with one site for the 2021 elections, it would be great. And then talk with IT, and get that up and rolling. That would be great.
Okay.
Even if we just consolidate the current forms and get them where they are. I mean, get them in one place.
They're actually on the page, right? But they're at the bottom because as the election goes on, we put the most current information at the top. So it pushes all the forms to the bottom. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, all those documents are
Yep.
there.
They're there.
Okay.
That's why I just went to pull up the certificate.
But if you go into form search, which I've tried before, and I put
Oh,
in
yeah,
campaign fund
not a-
report, I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's not there, and I don't know why. Let me just tell you, Anna did some archiving of the election page, and a lot of the information was taken down.
Okay.
So we need to really go through it and find out what's still there.
But it would be helpful if we started in August, like we did with the last election, of having right on the first page of the city website, elections, and then just click on it and get all the stuff that you need if you're going to be a candidate, if you want to find out what ward you live in, all of
There-
that information.
We can ask them to replace the link that's there now. They had the link there for the special election for Dewan, and we could just have them change that to FY21 municipal election information.
All right. Well, if you could do that, that would be great. And then if Brianna, you and Regina touch base this week and see if we can start loading an area that would be easily accessible, not just for candidates, but also for voters. Particularly what was helpful in that in the last election, and I don't know if it might need some updating, is where people can just put in their address and it tells them what ward they're in. And so since there has been some new construction in the city of Annapolis, that may need to be updated with new addresses. Okay, so you guys can take care of that?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, anything else on the election office?
Mm-mm.
Okay, all right, let's go to legislation. I'm looking at the time. So at the last city council, not the last one, the one before last, the ordinance and the resolution moved through that we had put together, and there was no objections, and that should continue. The charter amendment change that had been put in at the meeting by Alderman Savage passed on first reader, and it goes to second reader. And that meeting is July 27th, and it is a public hearing.
No, it's having a public hearing on the 27th.
Oh, it's just the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, so when's the next
No
council
vote.
meeting?
The council meeting after that will be September the 14th.
So they don't have another council meeting this,
Nope, the last one before.
so will it go to it won't go to second reader then till September?
That is correct.
Okay. So the city of Law asked for the Board of Supervisors of Elections to comment and let them to make a comment on whether we support this charter amendment or we don't. Now, the rationale or the purpose of changing it, according to Alderman Savage, was to, I'm looking for my notes. The stated purpose for this charter amendment is to assist candidates with fundraising and more time for campaigning, particularly in terms of working with independent voters. So he proposed that it be the second Tuesday of July. Some years that may actually be the Tuesday right after the 4th of July weekend. I don't have any inkling from Alderman Savage of why he picked that date in particular. That's the date that's on the charter amendment. I'd like to get some feedback from you all so that I can craft a response to put in for the public hearing.
Yeah, so Eileen, do you think that we could have your response by, let's see, the agenda goes out next Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm gonna try for it. what I have so far, and I'll just throw this out and then you guys can comment, is I've done a little bit of due diligence. And interestingly enough, when you look for changes in any sort of changes in primaries or changes in election in terms of dates, one of the biggest concerns is also communicating to the voters. And I guess I've kind of approached this that the Board of Supervisors of Elections is tasked with meeting the needs of the voters and conducting fair and accessible elections. At this rate, if this charter amendment were to go through, and Regina, correct me if I'm wrong, if it goes to second reader in September, then it would go to committees.
No,
No?
no.
Tell me the timeline then.
Okay, on Monday, the 27th, it'll be on for public hearing.
Right.
If the public hearing closes, it'll go to committees.
Okay.
It only has to go to, charter amendments only have to go to rules and city government, but I think Alderman Savage referred it to another committee. I think his, but I'm not sure because I don't have my notes here, but it would have to get through the committee process and we have to find the dates of the next committee's meetings in September. So it could possibly go on the second meeting of September for a vote.
Okay. And that would be second reader.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what they can amend it or make changes to it. And if it is approved on the second meeting, suppose it's approved on the second meeting of September, it would have to lay on a table for 50 days before it could take effect.
Okay. So the end of September. So then we're looking at October's 30. So we're looking at the end of November before we would be able to implement it.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be at holiday season in terms of getting information out. So one of the things that I've put together also is the things that in terms of my reading and also some talk with the state board is that there's the potential effect on voter turnout, more likely negative than positive due to heat, vacation, and holiday weekends. Not only for voter turnout, but also for the ability to recruit election judges. There's also going to be increased costs associated with increased communications to let people know that this has been moved up by 10 weeks. And so I believe, and Regina, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the current schedule has been in place since 1985. And so since 1985, it has been a primary election in September and a general election in November. So this gives us a very short amount of time in terms of getting that word out. It gives us December, January, February, March, April. It gives us like 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then what it does is it also moves all of our dates forward in terms of the election calendar. And then it actually gives 10 less weeks for people to actually be able to do their absentee ballots and their registration. So that needs to be communicated also. Mm-hmm. The other thing that it does is in terms of pre-election costs, which Cliff, you can probably have better information on this, which my guess is about 30% of an election cost is the pre-costs associated with ballots and mailings, et cetera. That would fall into the current fiscal year and not FY22. So we don't have that money allocated in this fiscal year. So that's kind of where I'm coming across from the effects on voter turnout, the effects on recruitment of election judges, need to increase communications, increase pre-election costs, and the disruption to the election calendar. Those are the 5 points that I came up with.
All of the forms that we have to make minor date changes to, we would have to do it again.
Or we'll have to wait and do a crush later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you figure there'll be more campaign reports that need to be filed because you're not going to wait until as late as we do now. You'll have reports that'll need to start in a more frequent basis. There's actually going to be 2 months less time than the calendar currently has for folks to file. Because, we're not opening the office till August, assuming the first primary is in September. Mm-hmm. Now, we're opening it in August and the first primary is in July. So yeah, I don't know how many people over years have actually take advantage of filing the full 12, 13 months in advance, but you do shrink that by a couple of months by doing this at this point.
Right. It does have the potential to create problems for, I think, no, everything's based on the general election. We did look at that. So it doesn't change in terms of residency because it's based on the general election, not the primary. Your thoughts, Brianna?
Correct. Right.
I
What
mean, I'm not a fan, so you know.
Okay. We know.
What does it do
Anything-
to the deadline to file for office?
I'm sorry?
The deadline to file for office?
It will all move.
Everything. Yep.
Everything will move on the election calendar. It will move up, at least in regards to the primary, it will all move up 10 weeks.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, in doing due diligence, I did find that one of the things that moving a election forward usually helps new candidates more than incumbents. A later date usually helps incumbents. And I did ask Joe Torre about that. He said it helps gives you more time for fundraising. If you're the primary winner, if you're the winner in the primary, you have more time for fundraising.
Right.
But it doesn't give an advantage. It doesn't give an advantage to the incumbent. It gives an advantage to the
Which is
people running, the new people.
the reason why it's being proposed.
Possibly. All right, well, I'm willing to put together something and send it out to you based on those comments. And then if you give me the heads up, then I will go ahead and submit it and get it in by next week. Does that sound?
I don't really have any particular strong objection to it. I just think that the time to have done that was 12 months ago. Because we've already started the calendar. We're going to be shrinking the time that everybody's had available historically, for all the election events. I think for the next cycle, if the folks are interested in that, you can plan accordingly, unless we think that our cycles are too long and it should be short anyway. But I think
Okay.
it's tardy.
Well,
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, if we weren't, that this the timing of it makes it kind of seem like a half-baked decision, and I don't.
so do we as a board support this charter amendment, or do we not support it?
Not for this election cycle.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not supportive for this cycle.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, Regina.
I kind of have a compromise. Why doesn't he put his question on the ballot? And let the citizens decide if they want to change it for the next election.
It could be a ballot question.
Certainly give that to him as an option, or give it to the council.
I mean, it wouldn't do what he's seeking for this next election, but it does put the decision squarely in front of the voters.
That might be a good thing. What would it be? You'd say can put it on as an election.
For this election, there's a deadline for ballot questions, and they have to be certified by this. It has to be certified by the city council. We have time to get that done, I would think.
Okay. So how about I put together, I'm just going to frame it within, if this does move forward, this is the effect that it's going to have on the elections. That the board does not support it at this time, and propose that the council consider putting it as a ballot question for the voters. That's fine, okay?
That's a good idea.
Because it kind of sounds like we don't like it, but we'll help you with it.
Right. So can I have a motion then to, just so that we validate as far as that the Board of Supervisors of Elections does not support the charter amendment. Can I have that motion?
Motion to deny the charter amendment.
Well, we're not giving support. We have to, they're asking
But
us,
also denial.
they're asking us, do we support it or not?
Motion not to provide support for the charter amendment.
Okay, second.
A second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I will send that out to get your approval, get the response approved by you all before sending it forward. Okay. All right, anything else on that note? It's legislation. All right, now to the fun part of the evening.
Okay, fine.
And this is campaign fund reports.
Before you start, did you guys see the email from the Democratic Central Committee? I found he did submit his report. It was in my
Yes.
email file.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Because of the time, it's 8 o'clock now. What are your thoughts about reviewing who put them in, who didn't put them in, and just look at them overall, and then look at the nitty gritty and do an analysis at another time?
Well, I was going to suggest, so I made another tweak since the last time I sent out that list, and or the Excel sheet. Yeah, that if I were to go through the prior report and the one that's due July 1, I could fill that out, send it out to everybody, recapping, if there are any errors, and can we just proceed with an agreement right now that if we are agreed on any errors or omissions in the filed reports, that then we can proceed, or Eileen, you can proceed with Regina and moving to get letters sent
Yeah,
to impacted parties.
I'm okay with that. How about you, Brianna?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that way we get those.
Yeah, I think if we could take action tonight on the ones that we didn't get. And then
Yes,
the
so-
ones also
Yeah, I
that are
jotted down.
final.
So are we still missing Gay, Moyer, and Rodriguez? Did I see that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So those all need to go out. We need to send a letter out letting them know that they're late and assessing them their fees.
Right.
Question had come up if because of the state of emergency, could these fees be waived? And I checked with the state board. They are not waiving their fees for campaign fund reports. And there's nothing, it's based on need, I guess, if you wanted to make that case, but yeah, those three need to be notified. Now, Bumper Moyer did put in, he did catch up with his amended reports from last year. And at first he was going to make them final, and then because he still has money, he just wants to leave it. And so my suggestion to Mr. Moyer is for him to sign, he says he's not going to be raising any money. So my suggestion to him is he signs an affidavit saying that, and then he doesn't have to put these reports in.
Yep. Makes sense for a couple of folks.
Right. So if that could be, Regina, if that could be included as a suggestion to him,
Okay.
but they're all going to be assessed the regular fees.
Yep. Now these are the non-election cycles, so it's $10 and not $20 per day.
Right. Now,
Can we get back to the per day part again? What's this per day, including the weekend, in your motion, or can you just, because I forgot what we're doing. Remember, we were like per day. I didn't think that was fair because if the office isn't open, they can't get to us, but we are in virtual time. So I don't know.
whatever it says in the code.
That's something, it's not clear.
I think traditionally we've been counting weekends. It's by day.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, they could be postmarked, but yeah, we've been doing them by day.
Okay.
But Cliff's correct, it's $10.
Yeah.
The next
Okay.
report will be 20 because is it election? What do we call for election year? Just 2021?
I'm sorry.
Well, we'll deal with that later.
Good question.
We have to decide what election year is, if it's defined by just the 2021 or if it's defined by the cycle.
Yeah. I mean, the next report's still not due until next year. I think the next one,
It's during the election.
yeah,
There's no report in July of next year.
right.
So when is our next report due?
It's the first one report during the election cycle.
Right, and that counts with the primary, correct?
Um,
Will
Yeah.
that move up? Or is it all
Oh,
on the general election?
Yes.
Okay, Regina, if you could get those dates to us, that would be helpful.
They're actually, and they are in the calendar that was put together as well.
Cliff, you're the election calendar guru. I night choose their election calendar.
I'll
Okay.
look at the dates.
Okay. Now the status of other ones to report on, Mr. Cacchiani did a final report, so he's done. He basically paid off his loans and then has no money left. So he should be done.
Okay, did he pay his $20?
He said he sent a check in for $50. You said that he was supposed to owe $90 and there was a notation that he had paid $40. And I think you had verified that. And then
Okay.
he was going to send a check in for $50.
Okay.
So if you could check if he sent his money in,
Okay.
he should be fine. He should be all settled. So he's off.
Off the grid.
Mr. Gallagher has done a final. He's done.
He's done.
Mhm.
Julie Musog submitted a final. In her final report, which I reviewed, she had followed state code, which said that any funds that were left over could be donated to nonprofits. Unfortunately, that's not compliant with the city code. And after talking with Ashley and also talking with Jared Moranis at the state level, it was communicated to her that she would have to reimburse, she would have to pay the money either to the Annapolis Republican Central Committee or the city or both.
When you're done, I just had a question about Gallagher.
Okay, so anyway, so Julie Musog was amenable to that. That's actually what her reading had been. And she just said she had gotten some bad advice. So I guess we do need a follow-up, Regina, as far as has that been done? So what was your question about Mr. Gallagher, Cliff?
He did file a report for July 1.
But he didn't need to.
He didn't have to.
Yeah, he's got it for transition, 7/1/19 to 6/28/20.
Right. But he didn't
No.
have to. So he's been notified that he didn't
Okay.
have to do
Okay,
that.
I looked at it, it's like, is he gonna keep going? Okay, all right.
So I think at least for last year, all of our delinquents have been taken care of, but they haven't necessarily been reviewed. And those are specifically Alderman Gay's still need to be looked at from last year to see if they're compliant,
And ADCC.
and ADCC.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we need to look at the current ones, which we can do. If Cliff, you can take a look at that and we'll audit them. And then we can send out notices based on that. Does that sound
Yep.
about right?
Yep.
The other piece of information is that I had contacted the Annapolis Coalition of Black Progressives, asking them to submit their forms and submit a campaign fund report. The city attorney at the time felt that they did not need to do it because they did not appear to be active in Annapolis. I did verify that they are certified with the state, but I will be sending out
Couldn't hear you.
Yeah, you started cutting out.
Oh,
Yeah, we
sorry.
can hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I'll be sending them a letter then saying now that it has been noted that they are actively involved in Annapolis campaigns and politics, that we will ask them to please certify with the, submit the paperwork for the city. Okay. Any comments? Anything else then?
Nope, none of that.
Nope, sorry, I'm just typing my notes so I don't forget.
So did we cover what we need to cover at least tonight for campaign fund reports other than just doing the actual audit?
Mhm.
And I will add, I did, Eileen, you had recommended taking a look at the Rockville site, and I did do that. I went to the Rockville site and browsed through a variety of their forms and PDFs, and yeah, I like some of the things that they've done. Some of it we'd kind of already worked into our draft. A couple of things had not worked in, but I did like a couple of things that they did there.
So you're shooting to get that pretty much to us for a final
Yeah.
go around September?
Yep.
Okay, that'd be great. And then that can get included with the candidate handbook and all of that good stuff. Yeah, and if you get a chance to run it by, I know Mike Dye said that he would be willing to take a
Yeah.
look at it, and maybe one of the other treasurers
Right.
ask them to take a look at it would be great. Okay. All right, any other items? Regina,
No, ma'am.
Cliff?
Nope, just a quick note with the hearing next week. I think I'm still out of town the week of the 25th. So
Well, we don't,
I will
there's no
miss
public comment, so.
Yes, that's true.
Yes,
That's, I
there
keep forgetting that. There's no public comment, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. This will be
Okay.
the first. Yes, it is. We are going to have audio commenting on the public
Oh.
hearing on the meeting on the 27th. So if you would like to speak on the charter amendment, you'd have to follow the directions on the city website. You have to check a box, and then they're going to vet you and send you a code back, and then we're going to pull you up when we open the hearing, and then you can speak.
Now,
And
will they be asking questions, or you're just just giving your public comment?
I'm thinking you're just giving your public comment, because we're going to time you to 3 minutes, and then after 3 minutes, they're going to cut you off.
Okay,
Good.
so the written piece could be sent in and then I could just read it?
It's going to be attached to the legislation, because it's going to be your, because it was referred to the as of elections, and
Right.
whatever you write up is going to be attached. It's comments from Board of Supervisors of Election and attached to the actual charter amendment.
Okay, so do I need to be on that, or can I be on that, or do you want me to be on that?
That's totally up to you. If you want to
As I
speak.
said, it doesn't sound like we need to be.
It
It doesn't, that's assuming that they read it.
Right. So the answer to your question would probably be yes.
I mean, I'm willing to put it in and be available to actually read it in public if that's something that the group would like me to do or not do.
It's up to you.
The advantage of having it read is that anybody else who is listening in on the session will hear that versus a written testimony, which they will probably not see.
Correct.
And it probably adds just a slight bit of additional gravitas weight to it to
Okay.
provide
Well,
some.
let me get the statement put together and send it out to you all and look at it. And then if there's anybody decides differently, unless I hear differently, I will plan to read it aloud at the July 27th meeting.
All right.
Okay. All right, sound good? And I'll make sure it's under 3 minutes. I mean, I'm not gonna, I mean, this is really just giving information
Right.
as to how we came to our decision, really. So it's not not
Yep.
gonna be long.
All right.
Okay. Anything else on campaign fund reports? Nope.
Nope.
You all set, Regina, on what we need to get done for that?
Yes, I have 3 pages worth of stuff.
All right, any other business?
No, you guys are doing a good job.
All right, so to recap, we're all going to take a look at the election year calendar and make sure that that's finalized by September. Regina, you're going to mesh the two together. the zip
Absolutely.
code and the dates. The
Yes.
MOU meeting, Ashley's going to be following up on the MOU. Election office, I'm going to touch base with Mike Lyles as far as part-time staffing. We will, and then looking at the website, Regina and Brianna, you're going to be working together on that. That would be great. The legislation, I'm going to get that statement out to you all, certainly by Monday, so that you can look at it, give comments, and then I'll submit it for the public hearing. And then I will be available to read it at the public, for public comment at the July 27th meeting.
Mhm.
Campaign fund reports, anybody that has not submitted them is going to get a letter and be assessed their late fees.
And Moya will get an affidavit.
It will be, yeah, I think that would be helpful, so. And then no other business. So our next currently scheduled meeting is Thursday, September 17th, 2020. So there will be no meeting in August.
Yep.
Regina, do we have to take a motion not to have a meeting in August since it's on the calendar?
Is it on the calendar? Oh, it's just because of the way that we hit it.
Right.
Provide-
We don't need to make a,
I don't think so. Nobody meets in August.
unless, does anybody want to have a meeting in August?
Golly day, you faced with a choice?
We know how
Like
you
if
love
Regina
meetings,
doesn't want us to meet in August, we should not meet in August.
We're getting ready to have an election. Please let me have a vacation.
All right. All right. Well, unless something comes up, which it could come up.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If something comes up, we'll have a meeting in August. Otherwise, we will not have a meeting in August, but we'll be doing business. We'll be working, and that'll give us some time to really get some things firmed up by September, because once September comes, we're off and running.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right, then can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, so move. This meeting is adjourned at 8:17 p.m.
All right.